Hello and welcome to Runkle of the Bailey. My name is Ian Runkle. I'm a Canadian criminal defense and firearms lawyer. Today I want to look at something that several people have sent me here. It's a Twitter thread between somebody who alleges certain police activities, which of course have not been proven in a court. These are their allegations, but also the police response. And the police response does make certain admissions. So it's worth sort of comparing these two statements to see how the police respond to this kind of allegation, what they say is going on. So this was noted, this was posted March 24th, 2021. I'll link it in the description below. It says, this morning at 5:45 a.m., my black boyfriend was woken up in his home with a gun and flashlight pointed at his face by Ottawa police. 10 police officers had let themselves into his family home in Vanier, Ottawa, interrogated his 11-year-old minor brother and his 17-year-old brother, telling him they were required to answer their questions. After learning they had illegally entered the wrong house, they refused to leave the house, continuing to search around and ask questions about a self-harm incident that was in no correlation to my boyfriend or his family. After they were forced out of the house, they continued to flash their lights in through windows and went around to the back of the house to try to get his 11-year-old brother to open the window to answer more questions about something they were not involved with in any way. They broke into the house at 5 a.m. without a warrant, pointed a gun in my boyfriend's face, refused to explain why they were in the house, interrogated his minor brothers, refused to leave the house after realizing they'd entered the wrong house, supposedly over a self-harm call. And the person says, you send 10 officers with guns drawn to raid a house with no warrant. You think it's okay for an 11-year-old boy to be woken up at 5 a.m. with multiple guns drawn on him? And they express a statement of unhappiness with the police. So that's sort of the one side of the story. Now, the Ottawa police have their own side of the story, and I'll go to their press release here. So, person in distress call on Montgomery Street, posted on Thursday, March 25th, 2021. So, Ottawa police have received multiple inquiries regarding a call for service on Montgomery Street that was received at 5:45 a.m. on March 24th. I bet they have. This does not surprise me at all. This is blowing up on Twitter. The woman who called 911 reported a man in distress who was threatening self-harm. After speaking with the female caller and then the man in distress, police were given an address on Montgomery and had clear indications this was a life-threatening situation. The original address provided on the call was a demolished residence and was a building under construction. So right now you should probably be stopping and doing some thinking, because you get a call and it provides you an address and that address clearly isn't correct. Maybe now, maybe other things are not correct. Maybe there's some, this is a time to say, is this an accurate call? Is this an inaccurate call? This is a good time to readjust your thinking on this. So based on cellular triangulation, police were able to narrow the origin of the call within a 25-meter radius to an address also on Montgomery. Now, 25-meter radius is very generous. It's a very generous claim for cellular triangulation. I don't think that they actually were able to get it down that precise, or they might have thought they have, but there's all sorts of things that can throw off cellular triangulation. Also, 25-meter radius is actually a pretty substantial radius. That's not going to be just one house or two houses. That'll be several houses. So they thought that it was this other address. They approached the house they believed the call had come from and spoke to a young resident, which means this sounds like they spoke to the 11-year-old. Officers then entered the home through an unlocked front door to ensure the safety of those inside and to attempt to locate the distressed callers. Keep in mind, this is not the address they were given on the 911 call. They're just now going into houses that they think might be the house because it's nearby. They announced themselves prior to entering and were able to quickly determine it was not the correct address. Well, I am not super okay with, oh, well, we just let ourselves in to have a look around and it turns out it's not the right place. You don't just get to go looking around at random places just because you think maybe. So they claim no firearms were pointed at any of the occupants at any time. No one was injured or detained, and there was no damage to the residence. Upon discovering it was not the correct address, police explained the situation, apologized, and left. I'm sorry, no one was injured or detained? You've entered their house with guns. Even if your claim that you have not pointed the firearm at any of the occupants, which I find highly suspect because, this news release was posted not a long time after the original call. I don't think that they will have sat down and gone through body camera footage if they have such a thing. That's just not enough time to sort this out. You know, they're saying, oh, no firearms were pointed at any of the occupants at any time. I've had experience with a number of these calls where police have shown up because somebody was in some way in danger, particularly on self-harm calls. And I can tell you, every single one of those people, I think without fail, has indicated that the police have pointed firearms at them. So this is maybe I shouldn't say without fail. I think there might be a couple where people have said that hadn't happened. But it is super common that these people indicate, you know, that when the police approached, that the police had guns drawn and pointed. So I don't know that I believe them here when they say that. Now, I don't know one way or the other, right? I wasn't there. I can't say for certain. But we have one report saying firearms were pointed. We have another report saying they weren't. My experience is that the pointing is more likely than not. So after the apology, they say within minutes, the original female caller was found by an officer nearby after running out of a neighborhood house on Montgomery that she had been in. She told the officers the distressed man had been in the basement. So they could have just hung around or gone and knocked on doors rather than just letting themselves in, and they would have found this person, it sounds like. Officers began to call out to other people in the home. Eventually, a resident who had been sleeping came out of his room, and police were able to determine that the man who had been threatening to harm himself had left the residence prior to the arrival of police. So, wasn't there to be found in any event. Police are still working to locate the man to ensure his safety. There was no dynamic entry conducted at any location in relation to this emergency call for service. Well, this is a very technical point because, you know, you might not have kicked down doors, but you still let yourself into a house that you didn't have permission to be in. So, you know, you're saying it's not a dynamic entry, but yeah. Life-threatening calls like this pose a significant risk to those in distress and to other members of the community, like, say, people whose house might be invaded by people with guns who are completely unrelated to this. A great amount of training and resources are used to bring them to a safe resolution. In this case, crisis negotiators, a critical incident commander, and trained tactical resources were all sent to assist. So that 10 people thing starts to sound like a real plausible number here. And trained tactical resources. Well, trained tactical resources is a really friendly way of saying guys in scary armor and helmets and guns who tend to shout and, you know, point flashlights in people's faces. And yeah, tactical is maybe not the best approach to a call of somebody who is hurting and in distress, but that's what they roll out. And, you know, when they say, oh, we just, you know, we let ourselves in through an unlocked door. Well, people should be able to have their doors unlocked without having to worry about the police just letting themselves in. And if the door had been locked, would they have just let themselves in anyway? They also don't address certain other points in the sense of the residents here claim, or the person on Twitter claims, that they were circling the property after they were asked to leave, which of course would itself be a bit of a problem. It's unclear what's going on here, but I hope we'll get to the bottom of this. Unfortunately, it's probably doubtful that we'll ever find out what really sort of happened here, but this is the sort of thing that really undermines public confidence. You know, when people should be able to have some confidence that they're not going to have, you know, that they're not going to have people kicking down their doors and, you know, or just opening their doors. Because one of the dangers this could have caused here is that people letting themselves into your house with guns could, you know, is a threat. People might respond to that. People might not believe somebody, because I can tell you there's a lot of files for home invasions where the home invaders who intend to do harm to the occupants are stepping in and yelling, "Police, police." Just because somebody says police doesn't mean that they necessarily are. And people may not necessarily react in the most sensible ways if you're waking them up in the early hours of the morning with a bunch of people with guns. This is incredibly risky behavior. So I have some concerns, and I don't necessarily accept, and I don't know the evidence. We'll have to see sort of what they come out with, but I don't necessarily accept on face value some of the claims of the police here. I have some skepticism. I have some doubt. So maybe these things are true, maybe they're not. But even the stuff that they agree is true, the stuff where they're saying this stuff definitely did happen, is kind of egregious. You know, saying, oh, well, we narrowed it down to 25 meters, so we just started letting ourselves into places. I don't think so. You know, I'm sorry. I would not accept that as okay if they were letting themselves into my place because they got a cell phone call and they thought it was nearby where the call was made. Police also need to be aware in this day and age of the risk of swatting. They need to be aware that this is a thing that happens. And so whenever they decide to roll out tactical, they need, like, this is not just a good idea. This is not a suggestion. This is something that the police must consider in the back of their mind, is what if this whole thing is just made up? What if this is all, nonsense? What if this is all done by a malicious actor who wants me to hurt the people who live at this house, who wants to hurt those people themselves? What if we are being used as the instruments or the agents of some sort of bad actor? That needs to be, you know, the thought there. And there needs to be some questions of, would that make us the baddies in this situation? So I have some concerns. I'd love to see this followed up on. I hope this person takes it a little further, although I know that's a very stressful situation. But yeah, I saw this and I just kind of shake my head, and I've got another video that I plan to post tomorrow, but I thought I'd get this one out today just with my comments. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope that this has been helpful. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Do you think that's appropriate? You know, do you think that's what the police should be doing? I get that there is a societal concern with, we want to stop people who are going to potentially cause themselves injury. But, you know, is this the right balance, I guess, is the question I'm asking. And anyway, let me know what you think. Please like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to see more content. I also want to thank my Patreon subscribers at the $50 level: Sir Daniel Wicks of Alberta, Jason Elliott, D. Moe, Canada's National Firearms Association, North Central Process Service, Kyle Martin, and Jean-Guy Toussaint. At the $30 level, Sights and Arms Limited. And at the $20 level, Dale Nesbitt, Cameron Johnson, and Andrew Elsich, as well as a number of you at the $10 level who will be in the crawl immediately following. Thank you once again, and I hope this has armed you with knowledge.